Hello. So, something that's on my mind right now is something called the sunk cost fallacy. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and he mentioned it. The conversation was referring to basically different relationships and the reason people stick with some of them, right? Even if they aren't good for them, right? So, the sunk cost fallacy is basically when you have invested so much time, effort, energy, things of that nature into something, and then cognitively you don't want to stop. You are already halfway there, or something along those lines. You've already invested so much. You are afraid of wasting that time, right? Examples of this is basically, like I said, with relationships. People are like, I've already been with them for 5 years. I don't want to, I don't want to leave them. I don't want to move on. Or we've already invested so much money into this project. We want to see it through, even though everything is telling you that it's a bad investment, that it's a bad idea, and to put more money, time, and effort into it, it's a bad idea, right? You don't want to have all this other time and energy, money, everything like that. You don't want it to go to waste. You don't want that to go to waste. But the problem with this is that you will end up wasting even more when everything is pointing to this is not good. This is a bad idea, right? So some things I can touch on to basically help somebody pull out of this, because everybody and their moms go through the sunk cost fallacy at one point in their life, right? Reframe it just a little bit. If somebody came to you, let's say somebody came to you and was like, should I invest in this thing, this project? And they are basically just you before you did it. What would you tell them? Like, let's say we have a business, and just from experience, whatever, I'm just going to say a plumbing business. Let's say we have a plumbing business, and we have this much money, this much time, and this much resources. And then person number 2 comes along with the same exact thing. The only difference is that you have 3 years on them and they don't. What would this person tell this person? Would they say to do it or not to do it? If it was the exact same circumstance, of course, you will be like, no, don't do it. It will waste time and money, right? So why can't this person tell themselves that? Well, it's because they think it might get better. It might get better. It might be fruitful. Even though everything the data is telling them is completely opposite of that, right? As humans, we don't want to waste what has already been given, right? And that's where a lot of problems are. So with that, being able to step outside of that situation and just looking at it purely from a marginal standpoint, does it make sense? If you say no, it's gonna suck, but just stop. Just stop, And you might have to grieve about it. And that's why we have grief. That's why we have grieving. And in the grieving process, it's denial first. No, it can probably work. Denial, right? And then the second one is it's anger. That one doesn't really matter as much as to what I'm trying to refer to. And then we have bargaining. Like, okay, maybe if I do this, then it will work. X, then Y, or equals Z, something along those lines. You try to bargain with the idea, and eventually you just come up to acceptance. Yeah, like, look, listen, this ain't gonna work, So I was talking to that client because he brought it up, and then I said, at what point does an option become a commitment? And then we just sat there and thought about it. And I've been stuck on that question for the last week, but I think I might have an answer to it. And the answer to it is, at what point does a commitment become an obligation? And now I don't have an answer for that. So, with that being said, do not get caught up in the sunk cost fallacy, because time is the most valuable resource we all have. We can always get more money. We can always get more leverage. Somehow, the only thing we will always consistently lose is time, and we are all limited on that. So that's just something that was on my mind, and it's been in my mind. So if you or a loved one are dealing with the sunk cost fallacy, please leave it in the comments below. Talk about it a little bit like that. And hopefully you can come up with a solution to where you can overcome it, because it is probably the most expensive thing in your life, to keep investing into something that you know won't work. I've been thinking about it. That's all I gotta say. I'm Jordan Mills. I help people with their business, and I also give life advice. If you found this useful, please let me know. Leave a like. Tell your mom about me. And yeah.